Hey everyone, welcome to episode 25 of the Ceres podcast with the snobby butcher, Johnny Pusztai. Not only is Johnny a really down-to-earth guy, but he is an expert butcher based in Nottingham. Johnny has owned Beedham & Son since 1991 and now supplies not only retail customers from the store, but also some excellent restaurants all over the UK. We had a really good chat about most things meat and animal related, but Johnny is pretty much an expert in curing and smoking meats too. I'm glad that Johnny knows his stuff because we covered a wide range of topics, including animal welfare, free range, organic, rare breeds, emissions from farming, and so much more. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Johnny, thank you for your time today. And thanks for joining me on the podcast. It's really great. We met a couple of months ago and we plotted this date because of all the events that you do. So we needed to give you a couple of months to get past it all. You run your butchers, you got a restaurant on the side. Tell everyone a little bit about what you do and how you juggle so much to get started.
Well, I am foremost a butcher. That's what I've been doing since I was 12 years old. Well, working in the same shop. Then I got to doing shows. We started doing barbecues because of the BSE. But now that's turned into a major part of the business. And then through that, we built a bistro on the side of the butchers, not through the two adjoining shops. And yeah, that's it. I do a lot of demonstrating as well. Did a little bit for our college. I got seen by somebody. They offered me a contract, so I do quite a few of the food shows in the country.
Brilliant. And how did you get into butchery? How long have you been a butcher now?
Well, we moved to Sherwood when I was fairly young, and we used to go into the butchers on the main road. My dad sourced him out that he did really good quality pork. That's one of my major meats. So we started shopping there. And obviously the butchers make a fuss of me because I go in with my mother. And I just liked the guys, kept asking for a job. And at the age of 12, I became their Saturday boy.
Oh, really? So 12 years old, doesn't happen very much nowadays, is it? Getting a 12-year-old?
No, we had a 14-year-old who's still working for me. He's a great kid. But no, 12-year-old's pretty young. But in them days, you didn't get pocket money like you do nowadays. So me and all my mates was always up to some scam. And then I worked for a dried fish shop and then got the job at Beedham's, the butcher's shop.
Oh, was that across the road where you're telling me the dried fish shop?
Yeah. It was called Skills. It was an amazing place.
And there was no one to take over the butcher's shop, hence why you sort of jumped in, or?
Yeah. George's son was a printer. He didn't want to come into the trade. He's very close to me. He's like my big brother now.
Yeah.
And when the time came, they said, "Do you want it?" And I was sort of, "Yeah, of course I do."
So what impressed me a little bit is that you haven't just been a butcher. You've obviously learnt all that, but you also gone into the slaughterhouses a little bit.
Yeah, I worked on the speed lines at Mason.
What do you mean speed line? Tell us that don't know.
Well, when it was basically factory work.
Yeah.
So it's fairly mind-numbing, looking at a wall, boning out beef, lamb and pork as quick as you can to make as much money as you can.
Feels like Rocky 1.
Yeah, a little bit, but we were doing it for a reason.
Yeah.
I was doing it to save up the deposit to buy the shop.
Yeah.
And every Saturday and every Friday night, I'd be back at the shop. So it was as though I'd never left.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Does it give you like a different perspective and appreciation for the meat because you've sort of seen it at every angle almost?
Yeah, well, we used to do a lot of meat actually for Tesco's, Asda, all the big companies, and what it learnt me was a way to butcher that I could then take to the butcher shop. For 4 years, we had nobody. I just did the majority of it on my own. because of being taught how to sort of bone on the line.
Yeah.
But what I had to do was mix that with my butcher's shop butchering, because obviously we want the quality.
Yeah.
And we do what's called sheet boning, which I think is far better than the old-fashioned way of single boning, whereas sometimes you lacerate the muscles, whereas with sheet boning you don't do that. So there's those kind of little things. I was taught by some really good lads at the slaughterhouse how to do it. And then, of course, there was the killing of the animals as well.
So you got to see that as well?
Yeah, I was involved in that. The gut room where they took all the intestines out. It is an amazing process by some incredible artisans on the slaughtering side and the gut room side.
You think of how clean that cut is and how fast they do their job as well.
Yeah, and that's what I was taught. So yeah, they do. And you know, these guys was doing it for a living, and they wanted it to look the best they could as well. There was great pride in it.
Yeah, of course. So then, obviously, how long have you been in the trade now, would you say?
I've been in a long time.
So you've been in a long time.
A long time.
You don't want to give your age away,
no, I don't.
But you've seen the butchery trade go through some pretty difficult times. Is it fair to say that it's on an upswing again? I
think it's on an upswing for the artisan butchers, the ones who stuck by what they do, stuck by the quality, didn't go cheap, didn't go down that route, didn't go down the supermarket route.
Yeah.
And the majority of them, they're doing.
So there was a subset of butchers that actually tried to copy what the supermarkets do you think?
I think there was, yeah. They tried. I don't know about copy them, because I think the supermarket copied the butchers.
Yeah.
But what they did was try to compete with them. And how can you compete with somebody if you can go in there, buy beans, breakfast, beer, when you go to the butchers? So when you go to the butchers, so I think that them poor butchers lost out, because you could get all that and then your meat. Why queue it to butchers?
So it wasn't that. So do you think that the supermarkets were the only factor in killing off some of the butchers, or was it a bit deeper than that?
It's a lot deeper than that. I tell you what killed off the butchers: the public.
In what way?
Well, they chose to go to the supermarkets. They chose an easy way out, and now they will be paying for it. And it's, as I said earlier, look at your fishmongers. How many do you see?
Hardly any fishmongers.
I mean, what supermarket can you go into and buy a sausage, a piece of bacon, and one piece of liver?
No, you can't.
You can't. But you can go into any butcher's and ask for that, and the butcher might joke when you've gone out and they're having a party, but they will serve you it.
Yeah.
And they'll do it the best they can, and it'll all come in one bag.
Well, if you think if you're older, single, butchers are perfect for you, really, aren't they? Because,
precisely.
Because you can go in there and say, I just want. Well, it depends where you're from. If you're from Cyprus, a pound of bacon for one person is usually all right. But no, you could just go in there and order what you want. And
how many of those sort of old ladies that have shot with you for years and had a family shot with you,
exactly,
and then they do come and only want a quarter of a pound of mince, because that's all they need.
But it wasn't that long ago where they were buying £2-3, but now they're just...
Yeah, and I get that. But we still do it. Not just us, all those artisan butchers. And they do it with a smile on their face. None of us are millionaires.
No.
You know.
Are you seeing more younger people coming through the butcher shop?
Definitely, because they want to know provenance of their food.
That's what's drawing them in now.
Yeah. And so what you have to do is make it... I think the other thing about the butchers is that it's no longer just beef, lamb, pork, chicken. It's now... we turn it into a product.
Yeah.
So, you know, stir fry for one. So we do trays of stir fry, black pudding, white pudding, pies. The majority of the good butchers that are left are all doing their own.
I did see a YouTube video of you doing black pudding, and it looked really good.
And it tastes amazing.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we can put our own stamp on it.
Yeah.
So we do a black pudding with Jack Daniels and cherry morello jam. And so you've got all that, and then the sweetness and the liquor in. Well, there's not many supermarkets can do that kind of thing. You know, and the other beauty of what we do is if you have got an allergy of some sort, or on the other line, if you like a sausage, think of any flavour. Any flavour in the world. For instance, peanut butter and jam. I can make you a sausage with that, as long as you buy £5 in weight off me.
Yeah.
How many supermarkets can do that?
They just won't be interested, would they?
No, they wouldn't know how to do it. It's not they wouldn't be interested.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
They just couldn't do it.
No, of course. So, obviously, I think a lot of, the benefits of going to a butcher for me is like the special service. You always feel special, regardless of whether you're buying half of this or half of that. There's something about the happy butcher, isn't there?
Yes.
But you go a bit further and you do like homemade curing, smoking, and also a lot more aging than most. Do you see that as something that draws customers through the door as well?
Yeah, I definitely do. We have a lot of people. We've got, and it's the only one in the world, we have a Himalayan rock salt pink refrigerator. Now that sounds, there's others out there, but there's none like mine.
In what way? In what way, sorry?
You walk into the shop, it's on your left-hand side, and it's actually a conservatory that I've had built.
Yeah.
It's triple glazed. And then I've had a refrigeration unit built in it.
Okay.
And then at the back is a ton and a half of pink Himalayan rock salt.
Oh, wow. I only saw a little bit when I was there. I didn't realise there was a lot more of that behind it.
Oh, gosh, yeah. And I got the idea from seeing the cages on the motorway that they put the rocks in.
Yeah.
So I had some of those made out of stainless steel, bolted them to the back of it, and then they all slot in like bricks.
And me and my friend were talking about this the other day, and we're trying to figure out what's special about the Himalayan rock salt. Is it the minerals? Or?
Supposedly the minerals. To be honest, I don't know all the science behind it. But what it does, it draws the moisture out of the meat, and that is it helps. We've had some in there since January.
Yeah, wow.
Some ribs of beef, and somebody had it last week. And said it's the best beef that they've ever had.
Wow.
So it's quite nice.
Definitely. And obviously you know where that beef come from as well, so that makes,
Yeah, we have two farmers, one's 6 miles away, one's 9 miles away. One of them he buys at the local cattle market, and then the other is by Brackenhurst Agricultural College, which is Lincoln Reds. We have them off there. Neil, who's the head stockman, couple of years ago he won the Royal Welsh Show, or the Welsh Royal Show, whatever it is. I'll get in trouble for that off my Welsh mates, but whatever it is with his, and we have the size off that. So
here's a question. I've always found, I think I told you last time we met, that for a while I've sort of been moving away from buying meat from the butchers. Start again before I trigger everybody. I've sort of reduced the amount of meat I buy from the supermarket, and I've been buying more from the local butcher, and I've just found that in almost every way it's far more superior. Why do you think that is?
Well, there's going to be several reasons. One of the reasons is when the supermarket buy it, it goes into the slaughterhouse. It will be dispatched of. Then it will be cut and jointed within 2 or 3 days, and it will be vac packed, and it will go into a box that says strip loins, top sides, chuck, and it will be put in the fridge. That I should imagine will be kept at about 1 degree, maybe less. In that will be a juice called myoglobin that stays in it.
So the watery that looks like blood, essentially.
Yeah, that's myoglobin. That stays in, and they'll leave it in there for maybe a week, and then they do say 21 days if it's going to be special. I've seen that on some of the packaging, and then it's cut and it's put into a black tray. So say at a week, that's had no time to develop flavour, no time to develop a body. It's kind of, whereas if you come to the butcher's shop, the majority of butchers is 21 to 28 days on the hindquarter, which is where you get all your steaks from.
Yeah.
So therefore they will have dripped. They're normally hanging, so it's called hung beef, not matured beef, and it's dry aged. Whereas mine, we hang it for 28 days before it even goes into the Himalayan rock salt fridge. So that's the reason you're paying for hemoglobin within, and
so it's essentially beef protein that's wet.
Yeah. So what happens when you cook it? That comes out. When you do mince, it comes out. The mince looks watery.
It gets wet. The mince is watery. Why is that?
Well, it's just because the carcass hasn't had time to set.
Yeah.
So it's still in there. So even though you're still getting that sort of fluid coming out of the joint, there's still plenty in there. It hasn't had time to to relax and to let it all go. And it's the other thing is when you see them in a vacuum pouch, it's tight on it.
Yeah.
There's pressure on it.
Yeah.
Which is forcing it out.
Yeah.
But when it gets to a certain point, it just stops. Then it doesn't force any more out.
Yeah.
It's still in there.
Whereas
if it's hanging,
yeah,
it's just dripping. And
I suppose if people knew more about that, they'd be a lot more selective about where they were buying their meat from, wouldn't they, really?
I think so, yeah. And I think the younger generation are. I think that we've been in the dark for some while about meat.
Do you remember, you'd know this, but I remember a few years ago where literally people didn't know a lot about meat and they'd buy meat based on the fact that, well, especially red meat, the redder it was, or if it's pork, the whiter it was. And now that's not the case anymore. You see some cuts of beef now that are really, really like almost like mahogany dark.
Yeah. And that, do you know what? You've got to say, a lot of people say, these chefs and, the television chefs, a lot of them have done it for us.
Yeah.
A lot of them's getting us a bit of kick in the teeth on some things because a lot of them's made belly pork expensive. Or, do you know what I mean? But no, they've really helped out by saying, that's how you should have your meat. Your meat shouldn't be pink and luminous.
Yeah.
Looks almost luminous, doesn't it? Pink. No, it shouldn't be like that. There's something not right there.
And they say that, I think one of the, I think one of the things is that you see, like in the supermarket, there's been this big push on, chicken breast, no skin, no bone. And I think that in a way is to keep people away from the butchers. It's convenience, it's plain, but I think this chicken's not right if it's not got skin on it. Yeah,
Chicken's got to be a chicken.
Yeah.
It's got to be a chicken. Why are you buying a breast? Buy the whole chicken and make 5 meals out of it.
Yeah, it's true.
Do you know
when
what
you
I
look
mean?
at the difference in price per kilo, it's ridiculous.
You look how much you're paying for a breast, for a couple of quid more, you're getting the whole chicken.
Yeah, and you get the legs and the thighs and the wings, which is definitely the best bit.
And the oysters.
The
two little oysters at the back.
Yeah, the best. Because obviously we're from Cyprus and we make a soup made from that. So, you just boil the whole chicken. It's really nice. And you get the oysters. Which is
very similar to Hungary.
Yeah.
We do all sorts with chicken.
Yeah.
That's why I love chicken and pork, because it's a less expensive meat.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so quite a contentious one. Do you think that the horse meat scandal helped bring more customers back to the local butchers?
Do you know what? I think they did, but I think it made a lot more people interested in tasting horse.
Okay.
And I've said from day one, it's not the fact that you've eaten horse, it's the fact that we was lied to.
Yeah, that we didn't know it was horse.
We didn't know. And if you think about horse going into it, you go to France, the horse steaks over there are amazing. They're sweet. I'd say they're a little bit chewier, but then again, it's from an animal that runs around a bit more.
Would it be like having a rump steak, for argument's sake?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
But there's rump steak from the first of the rump.
All right.
Which is the chewiest. Flavoursome, but chewier. Now, and I always joke about this, but I always say that in Hungary, if a donkey dies, before it's the floor mate, it's a salami.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing wrong. It eats grass. So therefore, that makes it herbivore. So,
So do you think, is that the fact that in England we don't like eating what's perceived as pets? Or,
yeah, definitely, because the horse is beautiful. However, what we do is put them on a truck towards the end of their lives and send them to Europe. I think I'd rather see a knacker's yard where...
So do you think people lie to themselves almost?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, we've got dogs. We love dogs. I've got a dog and I love him to bits. But do you know what? Let's just say goodbye to the horse because he's gone. Pet him, give him a stroke. Whereas what we should be doing is not putting him in a truck, not sending him to a country that we don't know how they're going to be treated. Do the deed here, shoot him, get him in. We've got a problem with meat that it's expensive and people can't afford it.
Yeah.
Why don't we do it so that we can have a cheaper meat and use horse or donkey or pony? But I'll probably get into trouble for saying that. But I don't care. It's fact. I don't want to see, you think about how you feel when you've travelled 20 miles in a car and the first thing you do is get out and stretch. Well, what does a horse feel like when it's been on a metal floor, perhaps not even had a drink? So... give that a thought.
No, definitely. And I just think, I've never eaten horse before knowingly. So, I don't know. I don't see the problem with it personally. If it's in your culture, you eat it, like you say.
Well, you think, a a lot of the people say about the dogs abroad eating. Now, that, of course I don't agree with. But, if you've got nothing else, that, I don't like the way they treat them because I've seen it. I think it's terrible.
I think that's the different thing. If you're going to eat it, that's fine. But don't be cruel.
No.
Like, don't be mean. There's animal welfare, which we'll get onto at some point. But don't be mean. You don't have to be mean. Like, just because you're going to eat it doesn't mean you can beat the thing to death either.
No. And then that stresses it as well.
Exactly.
Which is no good for the meat.
No. But I just think that's the biggest thing. It's like separating those two issues, isn't it?
Of course.
Yeah, just, if you're going to eat it, that's fine. But don't, in your culture, but don't be mean, like whatever you say. So then why should people use an independent butcher more?
There is tons of reasons. One of the reasons is you're going to get a far better quality. Far better quality. You're going to get a far better service. You're going to get a smile from behind the counter. You're going to get a partnership with your butcher, so that when he comes in, he might say, do you know what, Stelios, I've boned out 10 chickens today. Do you want these 2 chicken carcasses for £1?
Yeah.
You can make soup for 10 people. That's what you want. You want to be getting a relationship with him. And then the other thing is that when you spend that money with your butcher, it actually stays in the community. And that is quite important, because then he's going to go and spend wherever he spends.
Yeah. See, my argument is, to some degree, in favour of the butcher, is if people, and this feeds into our next topic, but if people buy from a local butcher, then they buy from a reputable source, and then animal welfare is it's the thing of the past almost, that people will do better. That you're choosing with your pound rather than avoiding. So rather than going to the lowest bidder, which is the supermarket, who bought on price only, and then the meat's probably full of water, phosphates and so on, coming from Denmark. Whereas if you buy from over here, like a local butcher like you're buying from max 30 miles away.
Yeah.
You can just drive over and say, I don't know what your farmer's name. Let's assume it's John. Hey, John, how's it going, mate? How's this today? And you're talking to him.
Yeah.
And if you saw him kicking his animals really violently, you would say, I ain't having any of that. And I think that's my argument for why you should use a local.
Well, when we won the Observer Food Monthly of the year, they sent the newspaper crew to spend, or a television crew to spend the day with me. And we actually went over to the farm, and they couldn't believe how when the pigs saw me, they came running over. And they did, and they nuzzle me. And that's the mothers. And obviously, I'm going to be kind to them. I want them, and they do associate me with food.
Well, definitely, yeah.
But still, they came and nuzzled me, and they're not scared of me. So, and I'm not the farmer, I'm the butcher. But because I spend so much time over there on the farm, they just see me as one of their own.
Yeah.
And that's what you're buying into. You're buying into somebody who does care. You're buying into somebody who is going over and making sure. Somebody who goes and makes sure the water lines are not frozen in winter.
Yeah.
And so that the animals are looked after in every way. Yeah.
What do you make of the current vegan movement?
The vegan movement, I think they've been very crafty. All these years, they've been quite aggressive, and now they're being very warm to people. Somebody's got hold of them, and they've done a good thing with them.
They've tried to turn it into a business, you think?
Definitely, yeah. You've only got to look real meat-free burgers. I mean, you've only got to look at Bird's Eye with the new vampire one. There's an advert on there, and it's that kind. And who's jumped on it again? The supermarkets have opened a meat-free butchery.
Yeah.
It's just they pander to the whims of the public.
I think as hard as it is to have this conversation, we know that meat comes from dead animals. There's no hiding from that.
Yeah.
However, it's very nutritious. We are essentially predators. It's true.
Yeah.
We are animals ourselves as well. But I can't see that, for me, I can't see how, fake food masked with chemicals and I just can't see how that's ever good. I just can't see, I told you I saw some, whatever it was called, fake mince. I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know. But it was grey. It did not look nice at all.
Didn't look appetising.
No.
If you go back to the days when we hunted mammoths, for example.
Yeah.
We were hunters then. And what did we do? We'd hunt the mammoths. Then in times when we didn't eat, we'd eat berries.
Yeah.
And we'd eat fruit and leaves. we've always mixed it. It's just what we're doing now. But in them days, they all ate everything.
I think but when you talk to like people that look at the history, anthropologists and everything, they will generally admit that humans went out to hunt animals.
Yeah.
And everything else sort of fell on the back of that. But mostly they felt full after eating meat.
Yeah. They lived a life of starvation without meat, even when they was eating the plant-based food.
Yeah.
So, no. And then, of course, they found fire. Then they cooked it. Then they found salt and they cured it. And then they smoked it. And it's been a lifelong pleasure with meat.
I think so.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, so you've not ever had, you've not been at the end of any sort of aggressive vegan protests or anything like that?
Yeah, people know me as Johnny the Butcher.
Yeah.
That's what people, if I'm in my city, we're quite well known. Used to be Johnny the hockey player.
Okay.
Because I used to play for the local ice hockey team.
Okay.
Then it went to Johnny the Butcher. And sometimes if I'm at a party, somebody will say that, and then I've had a couple of vegans, perhaps when they've had a wine or two, must be vegan wine, but they've come over and been quite aggressive to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What sort of thing would they say? Like,
it's always amazing because they'll tag in on a group of you. That's how it's happened. And then they get closer and closer and closer. And then they'll say, oh, so you're a butcher? And I'm, yeah. And do you think it's right? And I was like, well, yes, of course I do. It's been my living. And it's just those kind of questions. And then I actually did have one many years ago spit at me, a lady.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I said, that's the difference between us, because I eat a lot of natural protein, makes me nice. Which, that was the only thing I could say. What could I do? I couldn't sort of do anything to her. But I said, yeah. And then I did tar them all for quite a while with the same brush, which was wrong of me, because there's some lovely vegans out there. Seems to be a lot more nicer ones now. But even on Twitter every now and again, I do get some feedback that's not nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's about live and let live, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd think so. So I just don't get into the whole aggression at all, if I'm honest. I think that whatever you choose to do, dietary wise, do it. Keep your head down.
Yeah.
If you think it's good for you, I don't get it. It's whether you eat meat or eat only veg or completely vegan. Just don't be putting it in people's face.
Well, I would never stand on my shop door at the people who pass by and shout, get in here and buy your meat. You must buy meat. You mustn't be a vegan. You mustn't. I'd never say that. We're there. We're giving a service. If you want to come in, we will welcome you with open arms and try and make your meal special.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to come in, that's fine. I'll still wave and smile at you.
Yeah, exactly. It's still going to be nice. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's not a...
So how important is it for you to source your meat locally?
It's been the ethos of our company. Since George was with us, since J.T. Beedham started. We used to have our lambs off a gentleman called Mr. Philip Machin out at Watton. We used to have our pigs off a gentleman called Eric Bust, who's no longer with us, nor is Mr. Machin. So when them two guys went, I went out and sourced Andrew and Richard, which are now who I'm kind of in partnership with my lamb and pigs. I managed to get into Brackenhurst, which is the local agricultural college, last year, which is such a hard nut to crack because they are fantastic at what they do. And now we're having our beef from them. So, yeah, I consider it incredibly important. And the thing is, if you come to me, we have a lot of people ring us up and say, do you do alligator or kangaroo or wild boar? And I'm like, no, I'm really sorry. Or goat even. No, I'm sorry. Why? Because I can't go to a farm and see them.
Yeah.
And that's what I like to do. I often nip up to the farm. I've got all video footage on my phone of going to the farm and seeing the pigs, seeing the sheep, the beef. And that to me is very important because that is my contact with my farmers to spread on to the contact with you who may be a customer.
Yeah.
That is, to me, very important. And I can honestly say then, I'm done that.
And that's really important that you don't just, again, buy from abroad
No.
And abroad's really far away. But then also, I think years ago, I see it less now, but years ago there was a lot of emphasis on Scottish beef. There was a lot of emphasis on Welsh lamb. Now, not so much.
No, because they're keeping it there and we're keeping it here.
Yeah.
I mean, you say Welsh lamb. What about Uruguayan beef or Brazilian beef, Argentinian beef?
Yeah.
Even from Australia, the beef that they're using now is from India. You know, it's that beef with a pretty hump.
Zebu.
That's the one. Because apparently we was getting a lot of the zebu sent here.
Yeah. Years ago.
Yeah.
They used to put it in pies.
There you go. Well, I was told by a friend of mine who is an amazing gentleman that if you've eaten a pie, I won't mention the name, but you could have anything in it.
That would not surprise me whatsoever.
Yeah.
But then we've probably all eaten food that we're not aware of.
Of course. Yeah.
And I don't think we should be... Again, I think it's not the fact that we ate it, it's the fact that we didn't know.
Yeah, well, again, with the horse meat, we'll just go back for a while.
Yeah.
The only thing that bothered me about the horse meat was that if you've eaten it, what if it was from a thoroughbred, from a racehorse?
Yeah.
What do they have in them?
Steroids.
And that does concern me.
Because that would go through the meat process, wouldn't it?
Of course it would, yeah.
And then, well, especially if they've got bad practices, which, let's face it, if they're already using... mislabeling meat, let's say, that's essentially what they were doing. If they've already gone to that effort, because a lot of people don't realise that a lot of that came through Cyprus, and I know,
I do know.
So, obviously Cyprus is, and I'll tell you why in a minute. It's a bit of pretty much of a weak link for meat, sort of. They were getting the EU stamp and sending it over. Yeah.
But the other thing was that it's not actually meat, is it? It's what's called a commodity.
Well, the problem is, I think the only problem I had with that story is that, and I don't know if it's true, but it's that they were saying for a while it was horse DNA. And I couldn't get my head around that. So it wasn't like fillets of horse. It was, I'm guessing mushed up horse. I don't know.
But they were buying it by the frozen container load.
Nobody knew what it was.
No, they'd have it from Afghanistan. They'd have it from, and you'd be one guy buying it from a big pie factory.
Yeah.
And he'd just buy containers from wherever. And it all came through
Cyprus. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever went through Cyprus. I think they just sent the certificate, the stamps.
The stamp
that
was there, wasn't
so
it?
that guy was getting paid just to send a certificate.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know if they'd got like a
route. It went through Cyprus. No. I don't think it even landed in Cyprus. I think it literally just this guy was just sending them certificates, and that was it. From what I understand of the story.
Oh.
But then also I think so. Now we're sort of on this topic slightly. I think that the UK has really, really high standards when it comes to any form of meat husbandry, any growing practice really. And obviously we pay for that because meat over here is expensive. But I think I told you earlier that when I was in a factory in Cyprus recently, it was about 2 years ago, I'd say, it was recent. Me and my cousin takes me to a factory, and literally it was just, the standards were so different. And I can't get my head around why, Cyprus being in the European Union, why that was allowed. That in England we've got all these really high standards, and yet in another country that's in the European Union, which is meant to be equal standards, wasn't.
Well, do you know, I so glad you asked that question. I so agree with you that it is different in Europe to England, and that's why the meat is so expensive here. Because over there they just don't listen to anybody. And I know several years ago I went to Greece on holiday and spent time with a butcher there. He was lovely. And he took the animal out in his backyard at the butcher shop and killed it, gutted it. He did a fantastic job. No, he was amazing.
Yeah.
But it's against EU policies. But he was getting away with it. Now, if we did anything like that here, my friend who owned a poultry factory here had to shut his poultry factory because his doors weren't opening properly.
Oh, wow.
To the lorries.
Yeah.
And then a month later, the EU changed. My friend lost his whole business, and he had a great poultry business. And so it's all those kind of things that they make over there, and then they don't
follow it.
They don't follow it. We do, but they don't. We have to have a vet. Every time 8 animals killed, we have to have a vet there. Vets aren't cheap.
No.
So that goes on. And it's again at my shows, I always say to people, don't ask why your meat's so expensive. Ask why it's so cheap.
Elsewhere.
And that is the reason that they do what they want. There's no or very little process carried out. With
I think one of the other things that we see a lot abroad is that if you buy bacon, you cook it, and the pan fills up with water. You buy mince, and again, it's the water thing, isn't it? And
yes.
then I saw that when I was in Cyprus, the amount of water and phosphates that went into the meat, and they seal it, and it gets drawn in, and we don't see that over here. We're very lucky that we don't have that.
I think it has happened here.
Okay,
but we've
dealt with it.
We've dealt with it, which is fantastic. I mean, we had that thing where there was putting chicken in a vat, pressing the chicken down, putting a solution in, and then as they let it up and the chicken breathed in, it drew the solution into it.
Yeah, all right.
And there was bleaching them and cleaning them and that kind of thing. And that is just, my little girls might be eating that if she has a takeaway. And I'll just, oh my God.
And again, there's a big difference between like chicken that you serve, chicken at the supermarket, and then chicken that comes mass frozen that a lot of takeaways would use.
Yeah, again, they don't know where it's from. It's at a certain price. They're happy with the price. We'll just cook it off and sell it on. Yeah. But it comes with a stamp, and straight away as it's got that approved stamp from the EU, then our EHOs, they have got to accept it. As long as it's within date and within criteria, you've got it on your bill, you're fine. And I mean, we was having chicken, I don't know if you remember, several years ago, and it was actually rubbery, it chewed strange that was from the takeaways.
Oh, really?
And it was because that's what they was buying.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know what was in there. It wasn't good.
Well, I can imagine it's never going to be good, is it? And look, when you're buying things like that's for human consumption, made by the lowest bidder, something's always going to be wrong there, isn't it? And I think in the UK, one of the biggest problems we've got is that, especially the chicken manufacturer, it's a bit of a monopoly, I think. There's only a few chicken producers, really. And I think that probably takes us on. But it's probably good for some things, but it's probably also bad for lots of other things, isn't it? So what are your thoughts on, here's a nice deep one, what's your thoughts on animal farming being blamed on emissions?
Well, there was a thing the other day that it's totally preposterous. It's just not right. So we've always had these animals, and the climate change, is it a climate change or is it just a cycle?
That I don't know anyway.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I mean, they're cutting down the Amazonian, and they've had a fire there, bless them, which I feel bad for. But let's get away from this a minute. Let's talk about clothing. Now, how many of these protesters buy jeans, shirts, shoes, and throw them away after they've worn them 2 or 3 times? That is 4 to 5 times more emissions than the animals. What about all the smog that we've put up in the air?
Yeah.
From the factories,
so
from these. So, and one of the people who went to some rally in London actually got 2 planes to get there. It really is like glass houses throwing stones. And that, can you remember we had the volcano not long ago went off?
Iceland one.
Was it the Iceland one? And
I can remember anyway.
Yeah, they reckon that put 20 years on through what it was throwing out.
Oh, really?
So, again, I really don't know.
I think when I was doing some research on this, it says that cows do get a lot of blame.
Yeah,
but that's probably because of the vegan agenda. So they're using that to push. But was
that a vegan scientist, do you think?
Well, probably, yeah, exactly. And they were saying so they're constantly pushing it. However, in the US alone, cows and pigs total 3% of all emissions.
3.
Yeah. And cars is like 26 to 29%.
And what about
no factories, no nothing there. That's not in that figure. So I think that was quite interesting that, it's funny how the vegan agenda's on the high And then that figure, well, that misrepresentation of greenhouse emissions from cows is so, pushed all the time.
And yet it's so minute.
Oh, definitely. And then you said earlier about the clothes, and you see people going over to vegan clothes, which are essentially plastic. Plastics are essentially crude oil. That can't be good either. And then one of the other things I saw, they were saying about methane specifically. So methane coming out of cows' arses.
Yeah.
So,
like seance.
Yeah.
Oh, we've said that.
Especially when you're talking about someone. No, So they say, methane's 28 times more heat trapping than carbon dioxide, but methane's lifespan is only 10 years, whereas carbon is 1,000 years. So no brainer there. And it's just so clever because you said earlier about how cows are ruminants and they literally have a cycle. They eat the grass, they poo, and so on. Yeah. And this says exactly that. So that after 10 years, methane is broken down and it enters the CO2 carbon cycle, which is then absorbed by plants, which is then converted into cellulose and then eaten by livestock. So
therefore, if we didn't have it...
Well, this is the thing. My argument is if we didn't eat cows, would farmers grow them?
No, not at all.
So, I think everyone has this idyllic vision that cows will just roam the earth or roam,
But then if we didn't grow them...
Nobody would care for them, would they?
No, but what would our babies do with that milk?
Well, there is that.
And the other thing is that we've talked about the America and the cars. What about the other biggest countries in the world? India, China.
Yeah.
China with their vast. So, we perhaps ought to start looking at all those before we blame it on the poor old four-legged friend of ours, the cow.
Yeah, that's a bit silly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, this ain't going to be a long topic, I don't think. But what are your thoughts on rare breeds?
Oh, rare breeds. Rare breeds are what rare breeds are. Mm-hmm. And everybody loves a downtrodden anything. And that's what rare breeds are. The underdog. And, for instance, there's a farm show on called Jimmy's Farm.
Yeah.
And he had some black pig. And it couldn't even have a shag. Can we say shag?
You can if you really want.
Because it's not a bad word, shag, is it?
I guess not.
It could be. But it couldn't even get it up, bless it. And that's probably with rare breeds. I don't want to be helping a pig on its way. We've got 120 sows, we've got 4 boars. And obviously, those boars, they don't service 120 sows. They'd like to.
Yeah, of course they would.
But what we do is AI, artificial insemination. These boars that Jimmy had got on the farm couldn't
do that.
They couldn't even bring the pigs into. So it's not good, is it?
Well, it's not good for them either, is it? Really?
No, it's no good for anybody. So that's what I think.
What breeds do you have?
We have our pigs are a 4-way cross, and that's a P-train boar, which is mixed with a landrace, a large white, and a Duroc.
Okay,
that's the sow. We like 28% male fat, whereas most others are about 16. And my pigs are about 28 to 30 weeks old.
Oh, okay.
So that gives me that much more maturity on them.
So not watery fat, it's fat.
No, not at all. And the other thing is we only feed them dry feed. Everything's, so they are a dry feed pig.
Okay. So why don't the British eat more goat, hogget, mutton?
I think that goat's becoming quite popular as the new meat.
Yeah.
Goat's actually the biggest produced meat in the world now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you go to...
Do you think that's because of a lot of other Muslim countries? They like
definitely,
goat, don't they?
Yeah. And they're passing it on.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't like it. There's a tinge about it I just don't like, and that's preference.
Yeah.
And perhaps because I've not eaten enough.
Yeah.
Hogget, on the other hand, and mutton... Oh my God, we're eating loads of it now. And it is beautiful. It's got an incredible flavour. Lamb, the texture, unrivalled. However, flavour, zero.
I saw a video of you the other day and you aged lamb.
Yeah.
And I've never seen that.
There's not many people do. Yeah. We do that. And if you have aged lamb shoulder cooked slow, if you look behind you, there's a Primo barbecue.
Yeah.
I do it offset on that.
Yeah.
And I do a full shoulder for when my friends come.
Yeah.
And I like it after it's been dry aged, and it's not lamb, it'll be hogget or mutton.
Yeah.
And it's just...
I noticed that I'm clearly not a friend because it's not on. So.
Oh, well, next time you will be invited.
So what cuts would you say are coming back into fashion? Because again, there was a long time where everything was lean, not very tasty, no skin, no bone.
Well, on, say, hogget or mutton, for instance, the first thing is lamb shoulder. You have the two cuts, one called the shank, which is the forearm, and that half of the shoulder. Then the other half's what's called the blade.
Then the blade's got the bone going sort of flat through it, hasn't it?
It's like it looks like a tennis racket, mini tennis racket, when I do them, I like to loosen them, and then what I do, I stuff it with garlic, rosemary, bit of paprika, pepper, all those things. I don't use salt on it, I use capers on the inside. Put it in there, and I leave it in there for 8 hours on a very small heat, and then turn it up. And people say, "Oh, how do you turn a charcoal barbecue up?" You just let
the air through.
Let more air through, and it takes the temperature. Anyway, and I think that next to the pork and chicken, that's my next favourite dish.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So why is it that, because you've alluded to it already, but why is it pork is so tasteless these days?
But it's not if you've just done what I've said.
Okay.
If you have it matured, everything gets better with maturity.
So you can't go to the supermarket for this. You've got to go to your butchers.
Ask how many people at a supermarket can make crackling. There's not a lot, because the pork's wet. And it's just simple reason, it's not been hung long enough. We hang pork at our shop for 7 days, that's all. But it dries it, so that when you make your crackling, we had somebody take some. He's actually a skin dealer. Came to my shop in the week.
Not human skin dealer.
No, for our sausages. Oh,
so casings.
Casings, sorry.
It's all right.
His name's Ian Devane, and he is a fantastic chef. And he took some of my belly pork, and it was all over Instagram and Twitter at the weekend that he'd done it. He says the crispiness, and that's, it's because it started as a good product.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter how good a chef you are. If you start with a low product, the outcome's going to be low to okay.
Yeah.
If you start with a good product, you can only come out with it good.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
So there is an argument that, and we're going to get onto this on the next bit, but that pigs and probably other animals have been bred to be leaner, less marbling. Would you sort of agree with that?
I would, yeah. And again, that's not the butcher or the farmer that wants that.
No,
that's
the
down
consumer.
to the consumer.
Is it the consumer, or is it just what the consumer's been taught, or even just given from the supermarket?
I think that it's down to peer pressure.
Okay.
Everybody has to look a certain way. So everybody wants to eat. I mean, we're doing a chicken sausage at the minute. Chicken, lemon and tarragon.
Okay.
And it's in a lamb casing. It's done thin. I've had 4 people who are on diet said it's the best sausage that they've ever had.
Okay.
It's not my favourite, but that's how things are. There's the television, there's magazines, there's the papers, podcasts, and everybody's listening to them.
Have you heard of these, like the keto diet and stuff like that? And that's really interesting, because that tells people to eat more fat and then protein.
And what was that 5 years ago called?
Atkins.
There you go. Just the same. Yeah. And they've just put a bit of a twist on it, haven't they?
I think the good thing with a keto diet is that it actually does, and I probably partake in it a little bit, is that it really pushes the fact that you should eat healthy fats, cheese, and then, real meat, unprocessed, So I think it takes you back to a wholesome diet as opposed to snack foods and crap, essentially. And I think so. I think pork belly is probably one of the most perfect meats on the keto diet, because it's a high proportion of fat to meat ratio. So. But
have you been in a supermarket and seen any pork belly with fat in?
I can't. I think I told you before. I really struggle with pork belly from the supermarket, because when I cook it in the oven or whatever, it just tastes too sweet.
Yeah, and it's strappy. I call it strappy because every now and again I go and buy it.
Yeah,
and I put it against mine to see, and it's very strappy. When I mean strappy, it's quite like strenuous, stretchy.
And is that because of the water that's in it?
That's because of the water, and there's no fat.
Yeah,
you've got to have fat in anything, and you've got to have it laid. If you've got it laid, it's self-basting, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd be self-basting if you see me.
I know.
So why is Mangalitsa pork so good?
Oh, Mangalitsa. First thing is because it's Hungarian, of course. But we stole it from the Lincolnshires. So it's slow growing.
Yeah.
It's got fat to meat ratio it's probably 65 to 35 roughly.
Nice.
Don't hold me on that. And when you cook it, it's just the flavour. I mean, the Iberico pig's supposed to be the best in the world. I would put the Mangalitsa against it any day. And if you air dry cure with a Mangalitsa, my God, there's nothing like it. But it is a smaller pig.
Yeah.
It takes a lot more growing. It's reaching maturity at about 3 years old. It's just incredible.
So do you think, now you mentioned the slaughter, do you think the slaughter age for most animals is far too early? So, for example, there is a lot of emphasis on hanging, drying for longer, but would the animal benefit from a longer life?
Yeah, of course it would. You'd like to be alive a few years longer. However, to benefit for the butcher, and most importantly for the consumer, definitely.
So the average, these are averages, and you're a butcher, so you know better than me. So beef is 18 months life.
Yeah.
Pig is 6 months life.
Yeah.
Chicken 5 to 7 weeks. What a miserable life that is. Yeah. And lambs 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
So where would you say they all need to be in order to benefit?
Well, if you think about it, we'll start off at the lamb. The lamb goes 6 to 8 months as a lamb.
Yeah.
Then it goes, well, really 10 to sort of 12 months as hogget.
Yeah.
And then after that, it turns into incredible mutton. So that has got you've got 3 nice
levels there.
Our book fills up for spring lamb. I think it's a waste of time. The texture's wrong and the taste is zero.
My father-in-law absolutely adores that. He loves it. Every year he just looks forward to it.
Is he Cypriot?
Yes.
So does he do onto the skewers?
That's right, yeah.
So the bones are softer.
Yeah.
That's why they like it. So when they chop it, we have a few Cypriot shot with us. And then you put it onto skewers and it goes over charcoal.
That's right.
And you put your rosemary and all your flavours on. Amazing. However, if you did it with hogget, you would have all that and you would put the flavour count up by 10.
Oh, I need hogget in my life.
Yeah. And you want shoulder. You don't want the leg.
Yeah.
Whereas
we don't use leg, we use shoulder.
Yeah, shoulder. And then, as I've said, so you've got 3 ranges there.
Yeah.
With beef shouldn't be killed till it's 4 to 5 years old.
Wow. So that's like double and a bit compared to what the average is.
It would be amazing. And why we can't have that nowadays, I don't know.
Is it just price, and they're using lots of other things as an excuse, do you think?
I think that the BSE was using an excuse, and now we've got used to it. I think a lot of people have forgot what proper meat tastes like, especially bacon. You was on about bacon the other minute ago. When you have bacon and you actually chew bacon, that's not right. Bacon should be snapped.
Yeah.
And it should be crunchy. That's what bacon's about. That's why you cure it. You're taking the mush out. Anyway, then you've got pigs, 20 weeks old, I believe.
This says 6 months.
Yeah, which is 20 weeks. Mine are 28 to 32 weeks. That gives me nearly double the fat, which gives it incredible flavour. Of course, they're bigger, and I pay more because I'm feeding it more. So can you see I'm giving it another 12 weeks life?
But you're also getting more yield as well.
Far more yield, and you're getting far more flavour and far more texture. The texture's amazing. With a chicken, 20 weeks... That's just become a race, hasn't it? Yeah. They put it in these breeding barns, even if the free range are in breeding barns.
And it might be a load of crap, but I swear I read somewhere that a long time ago, you could have chicken medium.
Yeah,
because the way that the protein was a lot more different.
And the other thing was, at the minute, their bodies are still growing, so they're still susceptible to any diseases.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's why they're on the antibiotics.
Yeah.
So
now you mention antibiotics. In America, they use a lot of hormones and a lot of antibiotics. I think in America, they use antibiotics all the time because they saw that there's a big that increases the weight and yield.
Yeah. The other thing is with the hormones, they're all susceptible to the diseases. Yeah. And not only diseases. What do you call them? They get them in the skin, so the antibiotics kind of fights that.
Oh, okay.
It's like an abscess.
Oh, okay, wow.
So that's what it is with them making...
Because they're pushing through the growth so much.
That's right.
Yeah.
So they get abscesses, so the antibiotics is to slow that down. And obviously, when they're all together and they have massive corals?
Yeah.
Corals, they call them. Corrals.
Yeah.
Corals. They're in there, so they're in together a lot, aren't they? So they're warm, the heat. It's quite a hot country, I believe.
Yeah.
So there's all that reason. And then the other thing is, they drink a lot of water, don't they? So it's all to do with that. It's a whole cycle.
I think I told you, didn't I, that I was talking to a guy who's just done he's from a chain in America, and they've come over here to source chicken. And he says that in America, the same medium bird is £5.5, and over here, when he started sourcing a medium bird, they were 3.5, something like that. Yeah. But they're in the same category, and he couldn't get his head around it. And it was obvious the fact that we don't use hormones as extensively over here. We don't use antibiotics all the time over here. I think we're slightly different, the British, aren't we?
And the other thing is they probably won't be running around at all. They're probably a bit like shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
So they're just eating, drinking, and yeah.
Yeah. So what do you make of organic meat?
Organic meat's fine. I do have a problem thinking, how can it be organic when the farmer next door? Because farms stretch onto each other, don't they?
I suppose you can only be organic when you're not free range.
Yeah.
Because then I suppose you've got them locked in a room, you know what they're eating. But if
are they locked in rooms, though?
Not free range, I don't know. Not free range. Unless if we're talking about chickens, for example, and they're barn raised, and they're in a barn, aren't they? Yeah. So then you could probably control the feed. But if they're free range,
that's what I'm
how
saying.
do you control the feed?
And I don't know.
Yeah, because I've seen free range organic eggs, and I'm trying to figure out
free range. How can they be
I
when they
can't
go
get
outside?
I don't know. I can't get
because
my head around
when a farmer does a spray,
it goes everywhere, doesn't
if
it?
it's 4 fields away, it can move over onto that. I mean, they all say about this organic soil, but if a farmer's doing one up the road, it can soon spray over onto it.
And maybe there's just like a level there, or maybe they're not even monitoring the sprays, they're just looking at feed, maybe. But then if you eat a worm, you don't know what the worm ate. I don't know.
But if it's organic and it's out and it goes outside, then it will be eating and are they grain fed or are they grass fed? Organic? I mean, I've really never looked into organic because what we do is free range. Yeah. And I try and know everything I can know about my.
Yeah. We've got so many other things that trump that that you don't need to look at it almost. No. So this is a difficult one, but I'm going to phrase the question in a way that we remove the difficulty. So what are your thoughts on halal kosher, but if we remove the religious aspect, let's just look at the animal welfare? So to give you a bit of backstory, Belgium has banned halal and kosher meat in abattoirs because they're saying that it's not animal welfare friendly. What are your thoughts on it for the UK, where there is no ban in place at the moment?
To be honest, it's probably the first time I've ever agreed with Belgium.
Yeah.
I just think it's cruel. And that's an end to it. I just think it's cruel. That's my opinion. And, you know, it's just because I don't agree with something doesn't mean I don't like the people or anything like that. It's just I don't agree with it.
So you wouldn't be averse to seeing a law brought in to protect animal welfare?
Not at all. No. I follow all the laws with what I go through. Yeah. So I would follow that law definitely.
I was listening to a radio podcast or something, and they were talking about animal welfare, and the questioner says to the person, "What gives the animals less trauma?" You know, and they said, "Well, it's the bolt or the electric bolt. It stuns them."
Yeah, that's the bolt captive pistol.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And they said that is immediate. You know, there's no pain.
Yeah.
You know.
The other thing is that they use is what's called an electrothaler.
Is that the one where it's two like probes?
Yeah, and they hit them on the
temples.
And they drop. And then the other way that they do it is they do them into a room and they gas them.
Okay.
And that is another, is they go into a room and fall asleep. And that's it.
So they asked the sort of the imam, and they asked the same question to like the imam and the rabbi.
The rabbi, yeah.
And they said, "Oh, what do you think of this?" And they said, we won't even think about it. They said we won't even think about it because it's against our religion. So they wouldn't even have a debate about it.
No.
You know, so but you know, I think this would probably help the argument against the vegan movement in some ways if that.
I mean, let's face it. All of the slaughterhouses aren't a nice place for the animals.
Of course not.
They come in as what they come in, and they go out as a carcass. We all know that. However, them guys that do it, they do a great job, and they don't want to see. Most of them people who go to work at a slaughterhouse, they've all got pets. They love animals, and what they do is very skillful. And they like to be known for being skilled at it. They don't want people to think bad of them. And I don't, you know, and I wouldn't think bad of them if I did another job.
Yeah.
They do what they do, and they do it the best that they can.
Yeah.
But the other way is the halal way and the kosher way. I just don't agree with it. I just think it's
a very
wrong.
outdated practice in some ways.
Yeah. It's a very old way, and it should be. I mean, even like when I go home to Hungary and we kill a pig, they're still shot. Do you know what I mean? We shoot them with a board, and it's done from they're being fed.
Yeah.
So it's done with care, and it's, believe it or not, it's done with love. We don't want the poor animals stressing out, and what we also have to acknowledge is that every animal that we kill is giving its life for us, so we should treat it with the utmost respect.
It's the same with deer hunters. They get really angry and annoyed with themselves if they get a false shot.
If they don't do what's called a kill shot.
Yeah.
Yes.
They get really upset.
Yeah, because they've put that animal
through stress,
and they don't want to do that. So no, I get all that, you know, and I was part of it for a while. However, it's the other way. I just don't agree with.
No, I agree. I think I agree. Unless someone can tell me something else that differs, I don't get it. And I think I'm not being funny. From a personal point of view, I think I can taste the difference. And I tell you why, because I think I enjoy the flavour of hemoglobin. Like, you know, that's why we eat meat. I think, because it's that heme flavour. And I think that when it's chicken, for example, that's halal, it's fully drained out. Yeah. And I think they like that, obviously. And I think it goes back to, you know, blood in hot countries. It goes off.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. But over here, there's just no need for it.
No need for it.
I think it does have that, if it's a cleaner flavour, if they want to call it that. But
and the other thing is, I should imagine, with the religious sort of thing, it was such a feast to be had.
Yeah.
That's why they made it religious.
Yeah. And I think someone said to me that, if you read the scriptures or the Bibles, whatever they call it, it was in there because it was telling people, please do it like this, because people were getting ill. You know, so, you know, one of the main reasons that I think Muslims call pig dirty, you know, is because the fat would go off faster. It's a different type of fat, isn't it? So,
yes.
So it would go off faster in warmer climates. So,
well, did you know pigs don't sweat?
I did not know that.
No, and that's one of the reasons.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But they're, very tasty. But so, are you a fan of veal?
Veal, no. I've had it several times. The best time I had it was when I had a veal in breadcrumbs. What do you call that?
What do they call that? I can't remember. I really can't remember. But it's Italian.
Yeah. And
so it needs to be in something, doesn't it?
It needs a sauce with it.
Yeah.
It needs a flavouring with it, and that's why I did. The texture wasn't brilliant. It was like a sponge.
Yeah.
Because it's so young. But I still think it's a good idea that we're using them now, not just basically killing them, throwing them on a pile, then burning them.
So they had no use before this?
No. They had no use at all. They were just used to, from what I believe, was to bring the mum into milking and then got rid of. They used to put them in veal crates.
Okay. So why don't they just let them grow and eat them as older cows? Or
to that, I do not know. Because it's got to stay with its mother a certain length of time.
Okay.
So I even thought of this. Why don't we have foster mothers with the old cows that are finished? And now they're doing something with old cows. The old cows that have come off milking that are entered, they're now looking after and nurturing, loving them, and then being brought back into the food chain.
Oh, okay.
Which is fantastic.
Interesting. What are your thoughts on grain versus grass-fed beef?
Of course, I'm grass-fed, on the cattle and on the sheep. because if it's grass-fed, it's for free. Well, the
yeah.
sun and the rain, that's it. But grain-fed, there is a place for it, of course there is, because we need to feed them through the winter.
Yeah.
So a mixture, I think, is good. Just to give them grain, I don't know, because I've never done it.
Is it a different type, different flavour?
It's got all difference in there.
Yeah.
We just give it at that time when we have to subsidise.
Get it over a bit.
Yeah, just to subsidise.
But the majority of British beef is...
grass-fed.
Yeah.
And Irish beef, look at Ireland, it's beautiful grass-fed beef. So we're very lucky, really.
Definitely. I know I never brought this up earlier, but have you followed the news about? We've spoke about like fake vegan burgers and stuff, but like, have you followed the news about lab-grown meat? Have you followed?
Yeah, of course.
What's your thoughts on that?
Again, it's wrong. We're messing with that thing called nature.
Yeah.
We should grow a beautiful beast from being a calf to a beautiful animal that is got horns and shoulders, a beautiful back and legs,
rather than just growing mince or a fillet steak.
Yeah. If it has to be, then it has to be. I'm not going to, perhaps it would be good to just grow mince, let people have a lasagna with it. But no, there's nothing better than the farmer rearing on a beautiful field, that beautiful animal.
Well, like we said earlier, it's a ruminant animal, so it goes round in circles.
Yes.
So without the cow, probably no.
The cow is probably the farmer's equivalent of a bee. It needs it to turn.
It's a big bee.
A big bee.
So, you do a lot of food shows, and I've seen you on YouTube, and I've followed you on Twitter and Instagram for a while. You do have a hidden talent for sort of like being a showman, let's say. Where does that sort of come from, do you think?
I don't know. I just think that when you're a butcher, we've sort of spoke about it earlier. We're selling dead animal parts.
Yeah.
So we've got to get on with people.
Is that why you've got to be happy?
Yeah, you've always got to be happy. I mean, that's why I loved George and Bill so much when I used to go to the shop, because they always made a fuss of me.
Yeah.
And I've passed that down, and George watched me grow into the young man, then worked for him. He died at the age of 96.
Wow.
What an age, and what a man. So I think I get it from him, and always wanting to be in the shop with people, not just the lovely ladies, just people.
What do you see yourself like, in a butcher shop? You're teaching someone, you've got a minute window, get them served, you can give them a micro lesson on something, but at these shows I suppose you can get quite a lot, teach people quite a few things.
Yeah, well, when I'm up on stage I can teach them why to go to the butchers, which is I'm not there to down the supermarket at all. I'm there to big up the butchers. I always say that. If you go to a butcher's and he's doing the same meat as a supermarket, why go? Because then you can go to the supermarket and get everything in one shot.
Yeah.
If you're going to an artisan such as hers, then that's what I'm bigging up. I'm bigging up the fact that we start at 5 a.m. I've got my hands in cold ox livers that are this big, you can't see it, and that I'm slicing it, and then I'm going to get sausage out that's got ice dripping off it.
Yeah.
Not just me, but me and the boys. We do it as a labour of love. And that's what I try and tell them when I'm on stage. I quite enjoy it. I have quite a good following, actually. And think about it, there ain't a celebrity butcher out there yet, is there?
No,
so,
it's got to be you, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say that, but I'm saying, I work with some fantastic chefs who we was talking about earlier, and I just,
because that's the other thing. Like, there was two things I want to talk about. So you're not only a retail butcher, you're a wholesale butcher. So you would supply a lot of restaurants and so on.
We only supply the high-end ones.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't supply the...
Because they appreciate what you do, essentially.
One, they appreciate, and two, they'll pay.
Yeah.
Whereas that was going to be my next answer to you. If you approach me as a restaurant, I want to see your menu. I want to see what you're charging.
Yeah.
Because I can see by looking at that if you're going to use me or not.
Yeah.
Or
because if you've got like an £8 steak on the menu, for argument's sake, it's not going to work.
No, not at all. Because we hang it, we take all the mush out, we lose weight, so we have to charge more.
Yeah.
So we do. Yeah, and I get to meet a lot of these chefs, a lot of the ones that are up there. And
are these just local,
Well, I get to meet local. I get to meet all the other big name chefs. So it's very interesting.
Good. And the next bit I wanted to bring up was Is it difficult getting new young butchers through the industry? Because it's a hands-on job. It's cold. You get up early.
Yeah, it's labour intensive.
Yeah.
But do you know something? There's a camaraderie there you cannot believe. The boys who work for me are, I call them mercenaries of meat, and they are. But do you know, if your mum come in and she got a heavy bag, they would carry it home for her. And that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they would carry it home. Or they say to her, do you want me to take you home in the van? We don't get paid for that.
No. It's all those extras, isn't it?
It's all those extras. And then that takes you back to, is that why you shot with us?
Yeah.
Why do you shop with us? Because we do that. If we see your mum, your auntie struggling, we'd be would a supermarket. Supermarkets, when you go in now to the cheese counter, they give you a number. I went in not long ago, and number 74, you can come to be served. Have you ever been in on a Sunday and seen the car park in a supermarket?
No.
Go and look. I can't believe how busy it is.
On a Sunday?
Yeah, I went for some cheese because we'd gotten them. We was having friends round, and I went and they gave me a number after I'd tried to queue for, and I was...
It's like being at a dentist, isn't
it? Yeah, I was seriously, I was shocked. And then I went to another one where they made me stand in a queue and do my own till. I'm working for them.
I've got to tell you though, sometimes I do like using that, and I'll tell you why, because I find that the customer service is a bit crap anyway.
Zero.
Yeah, so if I do it myself, I can just get in and out. Whereas if I was coming to a butcher's like yourself, I just...
Yeah, but when I did it, the guy came over because I got a couple of bottles of wine.
Yeah.
I wish I looked 17.
But you don't.
But I don't. And I had to have him come and then I'd got all these people behind me. And because I shake, I don't know if you've seen I shake, I was putting things in wrong. So I was getting stressed. I'm supposed to be there shopping. It was when something was wrong with my wife and she couldn't go. And I'd got 20 people behind me.
So you're the bad guy.
So I'm the bad guy and I'm shopping there.
Yeah.
How come I went on a rant?
It's weird, isn't it? Yeah, it's weird.
I went on a rant and I said, what are all you doing here? I really did. The bloke was like, that's Sue. I said, no, I've come to spend more. I said, I'll leave the shopping. Thank you. So we didn't have shopping that weekend.
Oh dear. So another thing I haven't brought up is, how has it been with the restaurant, or is it Bistro now, attached to the butchers?
The Bistro.
What was the thoughts behind that?
Me and my wife went to Venice many years ago for a holiday, and I went to this place, and it was a butcher's shop, very like mine, but a lot smaller. And then next to it, but built into it, was a bistro. And I thought, wow, that was cool. So I went in purposely to eat there, which I did. And it was okay. It was good. And I thought, wow, I've not seen anything like this in England. And after that, that's what I did.
So you're going to keep taking on the properties next door to you now?
No, I'm not a money person. No. I wanted that one shop.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we opened Friday, Saturday. Well, we opened Tuesday till Sunday. Friday and Saturday and Sunday, you can't get a seat. But for now, I've had to shut it. I will be reopening, but under a different configuration, because it was just...
Too busy
for me to be at my shows and be there. So I've had to... it was... the word was inconsistent.
Yeah, and you don't want that, do you?
No.
Well, especially when the meat is so good quality and consistent that you don't want the service side to be lacking.
To be like that, yeah.
No, definitely. So let's move on to sort of like the ending questions. If you could choose, I hope you couldn't choose because that means something bad happened, but what would your last meal be?
My last meal would be chicken percote with roast potatoes, Hungarian style, a glass of Parlinka, and some picked salami with a nice Hungarian cheese.
What makes roast potatoes Hungarian?
We do it with sweet peppers, paprika,
onions,
a little bit of tomato paste.
Oh, okay.
And then we put them in there. And yeah, I mean, it probably would mask itself with the percoat because that's very similar. But they're just two of my favourites.
Yeah.
And we do another thing called Rantohush, which is schnitzel.
Okay.
That's the word.
Schnitzel, yeah.
And that one is one of my favourites as well. Yeah.
What is your favourite restaurant?
My favourite restaurant I've ever been to has got to be Satbane's.
Oh, nice and local then.
Local, the experience was, my God, it's not a meal, it's an experience.
Yeah.
That's what you go there for.
Service was good as well?
Everything about it is just, like I say, it's an experience. It takes you to another level.
So that's your treat place?
Yeah, I've only been 3 times. Because, as he'd tell you himself, he's rather expensive. But I do business with him, and I only think it's fair that
give back a little there.
Yeah.
Who has been an inspiration to you?
Well, I suppose, in a way, Satbane's. My father, a gentleman called Laszlo Orban, George Beedham.
Then that was one of the owners, wasn't it?
That was.
So he was like your mentor or something?
Yeah, he was amazing.
See, one question I had was that your dad showed you how to do curing, is that right?
Yeah. In a peasant style.
Okay, so that's what I was going to get at. So, you know, he showed you sort of very roughly with a broad stroke what to do, and you sort of refined it.
Yeah.
All right.
Helped by Laszlo Orban.
Oh, okay.
Who came over with my father in 56.
Oh, so they were like friends.
Yeah.
And what did he do?
He was a butcher.
Oh, he was a butcher as well.
The perfect butcher.
Oh, and the perfect butcher. And what was your dad?
My dad was
Done it again.
An engineer, come steel fixer.
Yeah.
But he was brought up on a farm.
Oh, okay. So he knew his way around.
So he knew his way around. And that's why we did all our own curing.
And did George Beedham do any curing before that?
Not at all.
Really.
No, nothing. When I went there, it was a traditional English shop. He actually loved what I did. And right up until...
He went?
Yeah.
So do a lot of butchers cure as well and smoke? Or is that something they'd leave to somebody else these days?
A lot of them leave it to somebody else. I think a lot of them are curing now because these packs you can buy.
Yeah.
We don't use packs. We use my uncle's and my father's, Laszlo's recipes that I've played with.
Okay. So you've tweaked them over the years.
Of course, yeah. And the other thing is I've built a smokehouse in the back of the shop, so we do all our smoking there.
Oh, it gives off a massively amazing flavour. A smell, you can just smell it.
And we also cure in the cellars.
Oh, those cellars as well. When I went into the cellar with you, you could literally taste it.
Yeah, that's why I always say to people, when you go down, hold on to the handrail.
Yeah.
Do not open your eyes till you get 10 steps down. You feel it without seeing it. And that is a massive thing. And that's when chefs come to us. They love that.
Yeah. It's a really big thing, that is, because I think it starts off that process, and I think, you do sort of your curing in oak barrels as well. Not barrels, but boxes as such.
Yeah.
And there's something about that old-fashioned sort of flavour,
Yeah. Well, that's how it used to be done. They didn't have plastic in sort of the 1700s, did they?
No.
I mean, when it first started, I don't know, you'd probably be able to look, but the curing was done by, the Romans. The Romans. And of course, the Greeks, the Cypriots, when they got the fish or the animal, the heat, which we mentioned, so they had to do something with it. And the best thing was to save it. Yeah. Salsa, which is salt. So,
yeah, and also using, saltpeter.
Yeah.
Goes back yonks. And this is one of the hypocrisy of today. You start to see, what is it? Nitrite-free bacon. But what do they use? They use celery juice, which is high in nitrites.
Yeah, which is the same.
And nitrates, which is exactly the same. And you think, but not enough people know enough about food to understand that it's just the play on words.
Yes.
So, a friend of mine says, I'll only buy bacon that's nitrate-free. And I said this to him, they're using celery juice, which is really high in nitrates. And there's more nitrates in spinach and, all green vegetables than what there is in bacon.
Yeah. And the other thing is that celery is actually one of the allergens.
Yes, that's another
massive
thing.
allergen.
Yeah.
So
I think it all goes back to quality of food. Yeah. And again, just to reiterate, if you was to go to your butcher who's took care, used good meat, you cured it properly, well, of course it's going to be better. But I understand that, we're talking from an advantage, and there is people that probably to some degree can't afford that on a very limited budget. So I understand that as well. So last question, and then we're done. I can let you carry on. You can go to work. Your favourite book?
Anthony Bourdain's The Kitchen Confidential.
You enjoy that?
It is amazing, yeah. And any book to do with meat and sausages and curing and smoking.
So anything that sort of helps you get better at what you do?
Yeah. I've got a vast library of all barbecuing books, because that's my life.
Yeah.
I've got sausage books, bacon books. If you name it, I buy old books. I do scour the shops. I like to find out about old things. You was mentioning earlier faggots, which is something that's gone off the face of the earth, really.
I think it's one of those food products that just became full of breading.
Crap.
Rusk. And I think they don't resemble what they used to resemble.
Well, we call them savoury ducks in Nottingham.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever
heard that.
Savoury ducks, yeah. And we do them at the bistro, and they're amazing with gravy and a bit of mash. It's beautiful. But yeah, exactly what you said. Somebody got the idea to cheapen it, like they did with sausage, and they did with pies. Let's fill it with rubbish, a bit of nice gravy. Nobody will notice. We'll make a lot more money. But people did notice. We
used to buy, when I used to work for my dad at the fish and chip shop, I remember they used to come in the caul fat. They used to come wrapped in that. You'd cut through them and there'd be a bit of pink in there because there was offals in it.
Yeah.
And then, I remember just before we stopped them because they didn't work anymore. And that was probably because of the fact that they'd just become boring and very rusky. There was no rust. It was just grey. No meat. It was just grey inside. So.
Well, we do 65% meat, then 35% other. So rusk, water, herbs, seasoning. And they are amazing. And we sell them 75p each. And they're cooked.
Yeah. So you just warm them, put a bit of gravy.
Yeah.
I think one thing that grinds my gears about butchers, actually, I think it's one thing. It's just this nothing. Is the fact that there's this weird thing, and I don't know if you all do it, but I remember once I was at the old butcher's, not the new one that I go to, and I remember saying to him, "Can I have some pig liver?" And the woman next to me hears me. She goes, "Oh, I'd like some pig liver for the dog." She got it free because she said it was for the dog. And I paid because it was for me. Yeah. And I always wondered, that was weird.
If you have pig's liver off me, you pay.
Oh, that's
if
all
the
right.
lady who has the dog, she pays.
Oh, that's all right then.
And in fact, the lady who has the dog, I will charge you bloody double because I find that an insult.
No, it's just, I think there was that thing with offals for such a long time where it's good for the dog.
Yesterday I had offal. I ate quite a lot there. I had 6 because there's only small portions. There was all portions.
This is when you went to Meatopia.
Yeah, there was all like that, about the size of a
biscuit, digestive
a digestive biscuit. And then that was the bread, then you'd have a topping on it.
Yeah.
And I had, because we use it in our offal, I had liver, heart and lung that was done on a barbecue.
Lung's really nice, really soft and spongy. Yeah.
But it's something in this country that we won't eat. So, but I had it and it was okay.
My in-laws like lamb's liver with lung.
Yeah.
Because it's quite soft. I find lamb's liver a bit tough for my liking. But
well, let me tell you, if you want to get on the good notes, cut your lamb's liver about that thick.
Yeah, that's an inch,
That's not an inch, it's half inch.
I'm clearly biased. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Cut your lung, half an inch.
Yeah.
Flour,
eggs,
breadcrumb, Parmesan cheese, fry it in.
They wouldn't eat that.
Rapeseed and butter, rapeseed oil and butter.
Okay.
Try it.
My in-laws would never eat that, I assure you. They're very traditional. You've just made it very modern and they're not going to eat none of that.
That would be amazing. It's not modern. It goes back thousands of years because it's making something out of nothing.
Yeah.
So
exactly,
you're making a very special dish with inexpensive.
Yeah. I think what I'd like, I've bought it a few times and never actually cooked it right, but I think I'd like to try heart a bit more.
If you have heart, you want spring lamb heart.
Okay.
Because it's very tender.
Very tender.
Yeah. And if you have ox heart, Don't have pigs. Pig's heart's very chewy. It's a bloody...
Yeah, it's an effort.
Yeah, it really is an effort. But ox heart, and you want the bottom cut into quarter-inch steaks.
Yeah.
And marinate it in whatever you like marinating in a zip bag, and then drop that in the oven.
Nice. Without the bag.
Obviously. And
it's not so obvious.
No.
It's a many.
And do you know something? It's beautiful. It's, again, I do a sausage with, well, I think I told you earlier, didn't I? With lambs and beast hearts. And we put it up, that's what it is. It goes like one, and it is. We do a kofta. We make it into a kofta, but a sausage.
There's a bit of spice with that, isn't it?
Yeah,
so it's nice. Yeah, I think anything like offals, I'm there. Like chicken livers, I like that. I love chicken livers. They're easy, they're tasty. But I also like pig's liver, and I think my favourite is probably calf's liver, like many would, who like liver. But I think lamb's liver is just... Ugh.
So what's the difference between a calf and a veal?
Yeah, nothing really, yeah.
But doesn't veal sound...
Already, because you just imagine these little babies, that's why.
Yeah. Well, calf's liver, you'd imagine more, where veal, you wouldn't. So...
Well, look, on that note, I think we probably made people either hungry or queasy, one of the two, towards the end.
Oh, the people who I'm interested in, we will have made them hungry.
Yes, that is very true, yes, of course.
The people who don't want to know me, that's tough.
No, exactly. So, Johnny, thank you for your time, and I hope we do this again sometime.
Nuff says, have it.
I hope you enjoyed that episode with Johnny Pusztai, the Snobby Butcher. I think we touched on many interesting topics, but I do think we only scratched the surface on them all. Maybe we can get Johnny back on in the future to just dig a little deeper. We have so many great episodes coming up, so make sure you've subscribed to the Sarah's Podcast.